Well, haven't done this in a while. You know, I actually wore this once, this shirt, to class, and then I was told I look like I jumped out of a mom's 80s closet. And that's what a girl wants to hear. Hey guys, it's me, Jenny, and welcome to the BookTube Club in the month of September. The BookTube Club is the book club that I try to host so we can talk about what we've read, not just me, but also you. You can join in by commenting and telling me what great books you read last month. And I brought back some cookies. You know, shopping when you're hungry is the worst thing you can ever do to your diet. No, I'm actually on a diet. I love food way too much to go on a diet. So, what did I read this month? I read the Lumatere Chronicles, actually book 2 and 3 of the Lumatere Chronicles, which are Froi of the Exiles and Quintana of Charyn. And guys, let me tell you, this series is so freaking fantabulastically, amazingly brilliant. I loved it. It's YA fantasy. The first book, Finnegan of the Rock, follows a boy named Finnegan from a kingdom, Lumatere, which no longer exists or has fallen under a curse. And Finnegan is the captain of the guard's son, and he and the first advisor, they go from neighboring kingdom to neighboring kingdom, visiting the exiled camps, trying to console the people, trying to find benevolence in the neighboring rulers, and trying to secure a piece of land which they can offer their exiled people. Such a great tale. That's what I want to call it. It is like a tale. It reads like a tale. The writing is fantastic. Some of the sentences that Melina Marchetta writes in these books are so devastatingly beautiful. It just makes you ache. It isn't epic. It doesn't explore a lot, but it goes so deep. And the characters, they're broken. A lot of the people are hopeless, but they carry the responsibility, they carry the power that is bestowed upon them. It's just a really captivating story of the healing of a broken kingdom. I was on a YA fantasy roll at the beginning of the month, and I read Gates of Thread and Stone, which is an arc that I requested. It follows a girl named Kai, and from the beginning she has been able to manipulate the threads of time. She doesn't know where her powers come from. There isn't supposed to be any magic because the city that she lives in is supposed to be the last inhabited city in the world because there was like a war going on before that. And the Khal, not Khal Drogo sadly, is the last person who possesses magic. And one day her brother disappears and she has to go on an adventure to find her brother with her oh so charmingly handsome friend. I liked it. The characters felt kind of flat though. The world felt kind of flat. The story felt kind of flat for the majority of the story. I enjoyed myself while reading the story. It was a really fast read, especially the ending is very intriguing. I think the rest of the book would have had the style of the last couple of chapters. I would have liked a lot more. I guess I would call this a very solid book. It doesn't blow me off my feet, but I didn't dislike it. The next book is a novella, and it's Sparks Rise, which is part of the Darkest Minds series. I didn't know that this thing was going to be published until one day I saw Emmy's video on it pop up in my subscription feed, and I was like, wait, what? This exists? What? I need to go read it, because if you guys have read In Time, you know why I would want to go read this one. And I can't wait for In the Afterlight, even though the cover looks like it's a rotten banana. Alexandra Bracken's novels, they have some punch in them. It follows Sam, Ruby's friend from Thurmond, and then I read Air Fire by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's the third book in the Throne of Glass series, and Selena's journey of self-discovery, of character development, it was just so good. I loved her dynamics with Rowan. I loved the Manon chapters. I loved the Dorian chapters. I loved Sorsha. That ending though, and you can tell that Sarah J. Maas is putting the characters into places like on a chessboard, and everything is just building up to be drawn together in the end, and I just can't wait for the next book. I love this series. It is so great. Next, I read The Infinite Sea, which is the second book in the Fifth Wave series. And I'm just gonna be frank here, I was disappointed in this book. So when you're reading this, you can tell quite easily that Yancey is using an iterative, repetitive narrating style to draw attention to certain plot points. The thing is that, you know, basically you have different kinds of POVs and they overlap, but the overlap of the POVs is so great that basically by finishing both POVs, you don't get further in the plot or in the storyline, and it's just a book of nothing happens, in my opinion. Like, literally nothing happens in that book except for maybe the ending, and even there are quite a few plot holes and things that just don't make sense to me, like Razor and Ringer's relationship. It just doesn't make sense in my eyes. The book was written in such an overly flourished way that it didn't enhance the story as it probably was meant to have, but it just made it more and more confusing. Next, I read Target Churchill by Warren Adler, and it follows Churchill during the period when he held his Iron Curtain speech. The characters of the stories are based on real people. It is set in the after post-war time, the Cold War time. I'm not quite fit in that time period. I don't really know whether the story is historically accurate, but I think that was maybe a good thing, because if I knew there were inaccuracies in this book, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I did. I really liked it. The first half was a little bit dry because there's like a lot of character introduction and kind of building the setting. The NKVD, like the Soviets are involved, the US is involved. Obviously there's like Winston Churchill and his bodyguard. It's kind of a spy novel. There are Nazis involved. And the second half though was really captivating. I really liked it. There was a lot of action, politics. I actually really liked it. And towards the end of the month, I read what I could call my first proper YA paranormal romance. Yes, I've read Twilight back in the days. I read some urban fantasy here and there, but I've never actually like properly gotten into YA paranormal romance. I've never read anything aside from maybe Twilight. I feel like Twilight doesn't really count because Twilight was just so massively popular back then. I feel like it wasn't a genre-driven read, you know? So I read the Sweet trilogy, which is Sweet Evil, Sweet Peril, and Sweet Reckoning in like 2 days, which was insane. I liked the first two books enough. The third book, not so much. It follows a girl named Anna, and she is a Nephilim, not the Shadowhunter kind. But in this book, Nephilim are children of the demons of the 7 deadly sins. When I read these books, I adjust my expectations. I don't lower or heighten them. When I went into this book, I just wanted angsty romance and I wanted action. And the books delivered. So I was super satisfied on that. The first two books I liked once you get over the initial ridiculousness of the whole entire story. They're actually, like, they're fun all the way. I really liked the characters. They were surprisingly well developed. Patty, though, the most irrational character that I've ever read about. That woman just drove me up the wall. I didn't like the third book because of the messages that it was conveying. I'm sure that when back in the days when Twilight was all the hype, a ton of girls wanted to have an overly possessive boyfriend who would break in at night and just stare at them sleeping. People romanticize that. And when you think about it, that's seriously messed up. I don't think that last book, and let's face it, the majority of the readers are going to be young girls, sets a good example for a healthy and responsible relationship. I'm having a Quintana hangover right now. I finished it this morning at 3 a.m. It was so good. I hope you also had a great reading month. What was your favorite book of this month? Tell me down below. We can talk. And see you next time. Bye bye.